Our next guest is someone who really doesn't need an introduction because she's already spoken to us earlier, and that is Ann Hazlett, who is here speaking for the Secretary for Rural Development.
Well, we have some exciting announcements that we'd like to share about investment that we'll be making in Eastern Kentucky. And in order to assist me in doing that, I've asked Ms. Hilda Legg to join me on the stage. Hilda needs no introduction here in Kentucky, but she is our State Director for Rural Development. Hilda.
Thank you, and we are so excited. Thank you. I am so excited this morning to have my boss, Ann Hazlett, with us from Washington, D.C. She has been excited to see you guys, and so we would just ask that she and Congressman Rogers come to the center stage to help us announce the applications for fighting opioid misuse in Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, Kentucky had received 12 applications. We were second in the nation, only Congressman to California in terms of our awards. I am pleased today to tell you that we are announcing $1,575,590 for Kentucky to fight opiate abuse, and 7 of those 12 are in the SOAR region because of the leadership of Ann Hazlett. So let's meet those awardees. Pathways, joining me on stage is Dr. Kimberly McClanahan and Shauna Lee Applegate. They are the clinical coordinator for Rowan County, and Dr. McClanahan is the chief executive officer. Pathways proudly serves as a community-based organization for mental health, prevention and treatment of alcohol and other addictions, services for individuals with disabilities. Grant money will be used for equipment, outpatient centers across the Commonwealth to assist opioid misuse counseling and behavioral health. Included in this award is Montgomery County, $31,160, Elliott County, $37,990, Pathways in Louisa, $39,900, in Grayson, $44,570, in Rowan County, $77,400, Sandy Hook had set $37,990. Congratulations to Pathways. The next award will be to West Care, Kentucky. Joining me on stage is Stephen Wright, the Regional Director for West Care. The grant will be used to purchase equipment, beds, and a vehicle for the Judy Patton Center for Families in Elkhorn City, Kentucky, right here in Pike County. The center will provide professional, licensed, gender-specific programming for women seeking recovery from substance abuse and will provide a safe environment for their children throughout the therapeutic program. What a wonderful project. Congratulations, West Care, and thank you for serving Kentucky. Next to the podium would be Jeff Schote. Jeff Schote is the president of Foothills Academy. Jeff will receive $89,700 grant. Foothills Academy is committed to providing a safe environment for youth, encouraging and promoting values and behavior. At this facility, the ages of the young men are 13 to 18. They'll receive therapeutic services, individual counseling. They are very, very active in drug and alcohol counseling and also along with anger and behavior management. The grant will purchase vehicles and welding equipment to provide instruction and job opportunities for these troubled young men. Congratulations, Judge Schote. Fantastic. Next on stage is Mark LaPlum. Mark is the CEO and the founder of Isaiah House. He is receiving a $452,000 grant and $452,000 loan, $150,000 grant. They focus on a holistic approach for the clients in the addiction recovery process, the clients and the families. This rural development investment will be used to purchase equipment, business assets, and the remaining inventory of existing metal business. Then they will take that business and train their recovery clients to learn a trade and help them get a job, Congressman, and that's what we've been talking about. Joining Mark on this presentation is Kevin Horn, the Vice President for Programs, and Mike Cox, the President. Congratulations, Isaiah House. Next coming to the stage will be Magoffin County. Dr. Pete Shepard is the Public Health Director and does double duty. He is the mayor of the city of Salyersville. Joining him will be Carolyn Isaacs, the registered nurse for the health department. We are excited to announce that this rural development investment of $72,170 will be a mobile opioid health clinic that will travel around to bring the services to the clients. And we know transportation is always such a barrier in Eastern Kentucky. A patient will have access to medication, counseling, needle exchange, relapse prevention training, and basic health screenings. Congratulations to Magoffin County. And now we have a very special award. I'm going to ask Mark LaPalme, the Chief Executive Officer and founder again of Isaiah House, and President Mike Cox, and Andy Ayers, who is the Vice President of Operations, to once again join Secretary Hazlett and Congressman Rogers. We have heard so many times that transitional housing, a place for folks who are in recovery to go to find a safe place instead of going back to their old habits and their old communities and their own friends, where they can receive continued support. That safe place as they integrate back into a workforce or back into school. So Secretary Hazlett became dogged after our May opioid roundtable here in Berea, Kentucky, about trying to find a partner to help us with our transitional housing goal. We at USDA Rural Development make home loans. Many of you know about the Rural Development Housing Program. We make those loans, and sometimes folks can't simply make that loan payment, and those houses go back into an auction status. This is where we looked for a partner, and we hope that this pilot, the very first one in the United States of America in all of USDA rural development, the very first one, we found a partner with Mark LaPalme and the Isaiah House. This is very exciting news. We'll be doing the actual signing of the deed and the documents, transferring it from USDA to Isaiah House on the second floor. And at 12:30, you're all welcome to join us at that event as well. But Rural Development is partnering with them. This official is the first, one, and only, and we look to have more. So I hope all of you will begin to think about how you can become a partner with USDA Rural Development and create a safe and affordable home where our people can receive job training and support as they transition back into society. Give a great round of applause to the Isaiah House for this first award. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for your support. USDA Rural Development is here to partner with you in all of the endeavors to grow jobs and create opportunity in our beloved Eastern Kentucky in the SOAR region. Thank you very much.
Well, as you can see, we've had another guest join us on the podium, and I think we're good and ready to go. I'm going to turn it back over to Congressman Hal Rogers, who is going to have some very good news for us, and I know he's excited to talk to all of you.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. And we are joined on stage by our illustrious leader, the governor. Thank you for coming. He just got back from a trade mission to Japan, Korea, wherever else. And he just got back, and his clock is so messed up he doesn't know where he is. But we're delighted that he's here, and you'll be hearing from him shortly. When we survey the depth and width of our efforts through SOAR, we would fall shorter than the marks that we've made without the support of our federal partners, especially the Appalachian Regional Commission and USDA's Rural Development. Their investments are deeply appreciated, and we promise to be good stewards of the funding that you've planted in our communities. The Economic Development Administration has also invested millions of federal dollars to help us educate and train our workforce for new industry opportunities. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the EDA announced a $2.5 million grant for the Kentucky Community and Technical College System that will be shared between the campuses at Big Sandy, Hazard, and the Southeast Kentucky campus in Middlesboro. The funding will fast-track new programs on each campus focused on advanced manufacturing training programs and is expected to create 261 new jobs. The key to these grant-funded projects are the relationships that are often developed between the public and private sector. I'm honored to announce today that Toyota Tusho is leveraging this federal funding to make a $30,000 investment of its own at the Southeast Kentucky Community Technical College to launch an advanced manufacturing makerspace at the Middlesboro campus. Students and small businesses will have the opportunity to be mentored by top leaders within Toyota Tusho and gain the advanced training and guidance they need to prepare for jobs that are high in demand within the advanced manufacturing industry. Would our friends from Toyota Tusho please stand so that we can recognize you? Yes, thank you so much. George Pierce, Senior Vice President and General Counsel, Matthew Nunn, General Manager. We want to thank you for your great support. Thank you. I'd also like to ask that all the presidents of our community colleges, would you stand and let us recognize you? All the presidents of the community colleges. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know our student population has been in fluctuation as a ripple effect of the war on coal. We want to applaud your perseverance and your ability to reinvent the way we educate and train our workforce and our future leaders. These community colleges are on the front lines, and they're making a great difference. Several years ago, I received countless visits and phone calls from local leaders concerned about the stark reduction of coal severance funds. And school leaders have pleaded for help as more and more students have been forced to transfer as a result of their parents moving to find work. So 3 years ago, I developed the Abandoned Mine Lands Pilot Grant Program to fast-track federal funding to communities hit hardest by the downturn of the coal industry. I first filed a bill called the Reclaim Act to try to get at monies that are sitting idle in the Abandoned Mine Lands Fund in Washington, D.C., with a total of roughly $4 billion that's been accumulated over the years by coal companies paying in a fee per ton of coal mined. But the fee was not being used. So I filed a bill called Reclaim, which would take $1 billion out of that trust fund to be used to reclaim abandoned mines so long as the property would be used to create jobs, economic development. The Reclaim Act's going to take a long time to pass, so 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I just earmarked monies in the federal treasury to fast-track that program and give us a test bed to see how the grant program would work. And to date, Eastern Kentucky has been awarded $80 million through that pilot program, with another $30 million in the budget for 2019, waiting for approval, which I think it will be. And I want to commend especially the governor and Secretary Snavely for developing a way for communities to competitively apply for funding from that kitty of money, and for selecting projects that will make the greatest impact across our region. The monies that we earmark goes directly to the state, and they then respond to applications for grants for projects in our region. And they've done a great job, and I want to thank them for doing that great job. And we will be hearing from them shortly. Now, I wonder if they would just join me, both of them, the Secretary and the Governor, would join me at the lectern, because it's hard to hear from those chairs. And I want them to hear. Over a dozen of our counties have already been awarded funding through the AML Pilot Grant Program. Today, we're proud to announce $10.5 million has been awarded for 2 new projects. The first grant is $4.5 million for a major waterline extension project that will serve 100 new residents in Letcher County, as well as the future federal prison that will soon be built at Roxana. The prison will create over 300 good-paying jobs for our region, so the infrastructure work is vital to the construction of that facility. Some of our friends from Letcher County are here today. I think Mark Lewis from the Water District, and Alan Bowman and Stephen Caudle from Bell Engineering. Would you all stand up so we can recognize you? Yes, thank you. Thank you. The second grant is $6 million for the city of Pikeville to build a new 60,000 square foot facility for Interblue, as well as the site prep work required. The Kentucky Enterprise Industrial Park will soon be Interblue's new home, just a few miles down the road, right here in Pike County. Interblue will be putting 875 people to work at its new advanced lithium battery manufacturing facility with an average pay of $39 an hour. Some of our friends from Interblue are here today. Please stand. Let us thank you for being a great company and bringing those jobs to Pike County. Would you stand for us, please? Interblue, thank you. On that same note, Interblue is investing over $400 million in our region. We're grateful to call them our new neighbors, and they're friendly neighbors. I've said it time and again, our best resource in eastern Kentucky is our people. And Interblue has clearly been impressed with the skilled workforce that we have available. And if you talk to them, they will tell you that one of the main reasons they chose here was because of SOAR and the work that you're doing and the kind of hope that you're inspiring. And that's the kind of new citizens that we like to have in here. When you examine every person who's been on stage today, it's a testament to the nonpartisan, multi-level partnerships that are required for success. We can't do this with federal or state funding alone. And you can't keep up the enormous challenges at the grassroots level without support. So let me applaud this entire concerted effort to keep up the fight for our hometowns and for a 21st century Appalachia. Our best days are ahead of us. Secretary Snavely has invested countless hours sorting through the applications that you've made and meeting with local leaders to find projects that will employ the most people and make the most sense for Eastern Kentucky. Secretary Snavely, we deeply appreciate your work on the pilot grant program, and we want you to say a few words to us. And Governor, we want you to close out the summit in a few minutes. Secretary Snavely.
Thank you, Congressman. I need to say first, thank you for providing us this opportunity, and I want to thank the governor who's given us the freedom to be bold and to try to find good projects for the region. But I do need to tell the truth, is that this process that we've undertaken with the AML pilot program involves not only the Energy and Environment Cabinet, it also involves the Tourism Cabinet, it involves the Department for Local Government, and it involves the Economic Development Cabinet. So 4 different state agencies are involved in this cooperating. Apparently that's historic, but we didn't realize that, so we just worked together, and we worked with Congressman Rogers' office in trying to find projects that are impactful and, more importantly, transformative in order to diversify the economy of Eastern Kentucky. I've been in I'm from Prestonsburg. I've been in the coal industry for 40 years, and that entire time we've always talked about the need to diversify the economy, but we've never been able to do it. And I think that's what we're trying to do now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. When this governor came into office, I was thrilled that he was so interested in what we're doing with SOAR. He is a true blue Eastern Kentuckian, and we appreciate his constant mindfulness of what you're doing in the SOAR organization and in the communities that are served by the grant program that the Secretary and the Governor approve. We are delighted that he is with us again. We are sort of unofficial co-chairs of this organization. We are behind you 1,000%. We want to help you achieve your goals. And I could not have a better partner in his dedication to Eastern Kentucky and to the success of SOAR than this great governor. So would you welcome to Eastern Kentucky again our great governor, Governor Bevin.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be back here. Thank you. I can't see you, so you can stand up, sit down, check your phones, do whatever you got to do. It's a little bright up here, but thank you for taking the time to be here this morning. What a beautiful morning as the fog began to lift in all the different hollers as you've made your way here from different areas. Just a stunning time of the year and a beautiful place to be. I do want to speak to you for a few moments, and I will do that. But before I do, I want to make an announcement as well. And so in fairness to those that I'm going to ask to join me, let's do that now. If I could ask Senator Brandon Smith, if you could make your way up here, and Chris Fugit, Representative Chris Fugit, if you could make your way up here. And I don't know if Judge Alexander is here from Perry County. If you are, please make your way up here as well. And Jimmy Ray Linden, who is the mayor of Hazard, if you could make your way up here, if you happen to be here, that'd be great. Come up on stage here, and we want to make just another announcement, an example of the kind of thing where good things are happening and continuing to happen. These guys, I do want you to know, both in the Senate and in the House, these people work tirelessly on your behalf. They truly do. They represent you well, not just in name, not just when they're running for office, but when they're in Frankfort advocating for you, they make things happen. And I'm not sure that the other two gentlemen are able to be with us today, but this is an announcement with an ARC grant that's going to be applied specifically into Perry County. And I want to have these guys here to join me in celebrating something that they and so many others have been working to help make possible. This ARC grant, these grants have been used historically throughout the years around this region of our state and in surrounding states throughout Appalachia. But we have, as was noted by Secretary Snavely a moment ago, started to be much more focused, much more intentional as to how and where these dollars are being used. They're being used less and less for political reasons. I mean, they really, sometimes there seems to be politics involved in these things, but the whole purpose of them is to get a good return on the investment. And the investment is frankly taxpayers. That's who's funding this at the end of the day. This may be a federal or regional grant coming from federal dollars, but heck, it's your dollars. It's our dollars. We're the ones paying for it. It just comes back to us. How can we be the best stewards of that? So it gives me great joy to announce the fact that we're going to be investing $1.254 million, so $1,254,320 to be exact, dollars that are going to be invested into Perry County, specifically for the purpose of developing water lines, sanitary sewer lines, gas lines, helping us to produce the kind of infrastructure necessary to develop a 30-acre site at the edge of town, where there's going to be more opportunity for the types of announcements that you've just heard mentioned happening in this community to be happening in that community as well. So gentlemen, thank you for what you all have done, and thank you very much to Sandy Donahue and her team with Department of Local Government, and to the folks at ARC for entrusting us with these dollars. We will be good stewards of this $1.25 million. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I will keep my comments fairly brief because you all have been here, for a bit, and we want a chance to visit some of those that are, bringing exhibits here and talking about the projects that they have going on here. Congressman Rogers made a comment a moment ago about how the future is bright and that things are happening here. Do you feel this? I hope you do. I mean, how many of you truly believe that the best days in Eastern Kentucky are those that are unfolding right before us right now? We had a board meeting with the SOAR board a couple weeks ago. It's a little rough when you get introduced as being the guy who's sitting on the end who doesn't know where he is or what time. And it's kind of, thanks for that introduction. But it's kind of true, though. Yesterday morning, I was in Seoul, Korea, doing some media and some business meetings prior to hopping on a flight and coming back. Had a couple as soon as I landed of additional meetings in Louisville. And then here we are here. So it is kind of all over the world. I mean, how blessed we are to live in a world where things are that expedient. There was a time not long ago when regions of America and regions of the world, like the one we are in, were seen as somehow off the beaten path. But quite literally, I was meeting with people yesterday morning on the other side of the world, talking about a company also in the energy space, also looking to make investments of up to $3 billion in the U.S. in phases, $1 billion at a time. They may or may not come to Kentucky, but we are working hard to make sure that they do. These are the kind of things that are possible that didn't seem to be possible just even a few short years ago. These are the kind of things that it's exciting for me as the governor to be able to go and represent on your behalf. To be able to tell people about this extraordinary gem that we have, this stunning thing called Kentucky, called Eastern Kentucky. The work ethic, the values, the pride that people take. It's extraordinary. I was helping earlier in northeastern Kentucky. I was up just outside of Moorhead, celebrating the 100th anniversary of Hinton Mills, a company that has been dedicated to serving farmers in the northeastern part of this state for 100 years, and their growth potential and their excitement as they celebrate their centennial. It's fun to see when things are really working, and indeed that when the future really is bright ahead. If you remember, how many of you and I'll try to shade my eyes and see, how many of you were here on that cold winter day? I believe it was in December. It was either December or maybe early January of 2014, 15. I guess it was actually 13. December of 2013, the very first SOAR summit. How many of you all were here? So a number of you. Excellent. You know what's encouraging to me is I'll bet you, unless you're being shy and not raising your hand, that was maybe 15 to 20% of the people here. Many of you were not here on that day. But for those of you, which is fine, what this tells me is that we're getting newer people coming to this equation. And for those of you that were here, remember the nature of that conversation. It was an all day long, or the better part of a day, type of a presentation from this stage. And the people that were on this stage and the people who did most of the speaking were not from Kentucky. They were people from other places like the Iron Range in northern Michigan and places like this where they had seen a downturn in their economy, and they were coming to bring us hope. And this place was even more packed at that time. And the irony was, when things were more bleak, when the times were darker and hope seemed to be farther away, if it even existed, then the sense of concern was high on the part of people in this community and in this region. The place was packed out with people hoping for a glimmer of hope. And now, as you are seeing and hearing, in just 5 short years, we are seeing the culmination of all of the ideas that Congressman Rogers really had when he launched this thing just a handful of years ago. And now we're not just talking about hypotheticals. We're not just listening to other people tell us, hey, this could in fact happen. Things are actually happening. The old adage, which has then become a truism in many respects and famously worked into speeches by people like Abraham Lincoln, and now to the point that it's the motto of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, which is united we stand and divided we fall, is so true indeed. And I want to thank each and every one of you, especially those of you who came to that very first one, and probably most, if not all of you who came to that first one and are here today, have probably been to each of them along the way. I hope you're feeling a change in momentum. There's fewer people who are able to come here because there's more and more people that are working. We still have a lot of upside potential, a lot of wood to be chopped, but we are making extraordinary strides. And I want to thank each of you for being part of the process, for believing enough to be here, for pouring in. I'll close with this comment. I want to challenge you, actually, to continue to be emissaries, to truly believe that our best days are ahead, not just when asked, not just when prompted, not just in a situation like this, but to go out and exude it, to talk to people, to find ways that you can make it come to fruition. I wish you could be with me in all of the meetings that I have literally all over the world. If you think about this, in the history of Kentucky, the most private capital that we had ever had invested in our state in a single year was $5.1 billion, which is a lot of money. $5.1 billion had been invested in Kentucky in the best year we had ever seen. Last year, that was prior to just a couple years ago. The last couple years, we've seen a remarkable difference, and in partial measure because of folks like you. People like Chuck Sexton, who represents a whole series of counties in the eastern part of the state, who I run into Chuck all over the world as he and I and others are out representing these communities and representing the Commonwealth as a whole. Last year we had over $9.2 billion in a single year, nearly double the best year we had ever previously had. We've had $16 billion worth of announcements, actually just short and about to be quite a bit over, $16 billion in capital investment in Kentucky in the last 2.5 years. We've never had a 4-year period in any time in our history to have even close to that much. We're shattering economic development records. Why? Because we're taking our story to the world. We're not waiting, sitting around, hoping for some handout from somebody somewhere or hoping that somebody here somehow stumbles onto something. We're being proactive and intentional. And it's exciting. It's being driven by those in this community. You remember in that very first SOAR Summit, there were breakout sessions and people were talking about different ways in which the community could come in and get involved. Well, now you are involved. And so my challenge to you is to continue to be emissaries in your own way, in your own space, challenging one another to believe like you've never believed before, to be optimistic and positive, to go and travel and bring to the world an understanding of all the incredible things that we have here. I literally have the CEO of a major company, a major global brand, that's going to be flying in here this weekend, Labor Day weekend, because he wants to spend time prior to sitting down with his board later in the week, where, knock on wood, it would seem that we're on track to have another $650 million investment being made. It's not in this region, but trust me, it's good for this state. This whole state is being buoyed by what's good in the east is good in the west and everywhere in between. And I want you to hear it, to know it, and to believe it, to truly believe it, and to be proud of it. The work ethic, the values, who we are. It's a tremendous compliment for me to have the congressman say that like an Eastern Kentucky blue blood, or true blue, I think were his words. Kind of a difference between true blue and blue blood, I guess. But Eastern Kentucky true blue, well, you all know I'm not originally from Eastern Kentucky, but I have a tremendous kindred spirit with the people of Eastern Kentucky. I've shared with you before, but having grown up in a poor, rural, mountainous community, I appreciate where jobs are scarce, and when industry folds, it doesn't come back easily, and unemployment is high, and there's rampant drug problems, and there's a discouragement that seems to always be right at the edge of the door. I feel in many respects as if I'm home every time I come back through these mountain gaps, because it's so similar to where I was raised. It's why I am so excited about what's starting to change. We are in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, in our lifetimes, for the vast majority of us in this room, we are going to see a transformation in Eastern Kentucky, the likes of which we have only dreamed about and thought about and hoped for. And it's now happening because of folks like you, because of those on this stage, others that you've heard from, and others that you will hear from. I want to thank you again. I want to challenge you again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing. Take it out there. I want you to humor me with something before I sit down. I'm gonna ask you to repeat with me, with great enthusiasm, if you truly believe it to be true, that united we stand and divided we fall. I want you to say that with me, if you would. United we stand, divided we fall. Say it again. United we stand, divided we fall. If you truly believe it, if you truly embody it, then our best days are indeed yet to come. Thank you, and God bless you.